Is your computer not a computer? Is it a potato instead? If so, you might want to consider changing the CPU. In today's video, we will be showing you how you can remove and install a CPU on the motherboard. The CPU's thermal compound should also be replaced about every year or so to provide the most effective cooling for the CPU possible. And we will be going over this process in this video as well. Now you might be thinking, but I don't know how to work on computers. Well, trust us, neither do we. So without further ado, let's jump into this. First, you're probably going to want to get a computer. Second, you're probably going to want to get a CPU. Just putting that out there. Now remember, the CPU has to be compatible with the motherboard, so make sure it is, or you'll end up looking like a total clown, ha 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 ha. The next step would be to remove the screws that hold the lid in place, as shown by our skilled technician. Unfortunately, being skilled at our company is not enough to get paid. Finally, now just pop this thing off and boom, you have access to the inside of the computer. Now remember, computer components are very sensitive to static electricity, so make sure to ground yourself by keeping one hand in contact with a metal part on the computer case. Or just ground yourself in any other way you know. Bruh. First, we are going to be showing you how to remove and reinstall a PGA type CPU. Many PGA type processors are made by AMD and have pins underneath them that go into the CPU socket on the motherboard. Okay, let's get started. First, you want to find the CPU fan power cable on the motherboard and unplug it. Nice. Now loosen this lever on this thing holding the heatsink down on the CPU and gently remove the CPU fan and heatsink. Now that we have access to the CPU, we will take out the CPU itself. First, unhook this lever that is holding the CPU in its socket and pull it back here until it makes a click. Now you can take the CPU out, and make sure to avoid touching the pins that are on the CPU to prevent damage, and proceed to either reinstall the same CPU or install a new one. When installing the CPU, make sure the pin 1, marked by a triangle on the CPU, is aligned with pin 1 on the motherboard, also marked by a triangle. Now if you want your computer to work after this, just do all the steps in reverse, and that's it for PGA type CPU removal and installation. Now we will show you how to remove and install LGA type processors. Modern Intel processors mostly use LGA processor technology, and these processors don't have pins on them. Instead, the pins are in the CPU socket. The process for changing LGA type CPUs is very similar. First, you have to unplug the CPU fan power cable from the motherboard. Now just unclip these things that hold the heatsink and CPU fan unit down on the CPU, and remove it from the CPU. Now unhook the CPU socket lever and pull it back so that the CPU bracket opens to reveal the CPU, and take it out. Now once again, all you have to do now is do all of the steps but in reverse to put it all back together. And now, the moment you've probably been waiting for, or not, now comes the part where we show you how to change the thermal paste. When you take the CPU heatsink off of the CPU, you will see that there is some stuff on the CPU. That is the thermal paste. If you are still going to use the same CPU, that stuff needs to come off first. In order to change the thermal compound on a CPU, you can use isopropyl alcohol and some lint-free cloth, or you can use these bad boys, Arctic Clean Thermal Material Remover and Thermal Surface Purifier. And yeah, you're gonna need some thermal paste. So anyways, let's get this bread. First, start with the heatsink and apply a few drops of the Arctic Clean Thermal Material Remover to the thermal compound. This stuff smells like lemons, but don't eat it, trust me, it's not that good. After you have finished applying the thermal material remover to the thermal compound, let it sit for 30 to 60 seconds.
$2,000 later.
And we're back, so now you can just wipe the heatsink with something, like a coffee filter. Once you're done with that, add some Arctic Clean Thermal Surface Purifier to whatever it is that you're using to clean the heatsink, and clean off the heatsink.
2,000 years later.
And boom, your heatsink is clean. Now cleaning the thermal compound off of the CPU is fairly similar. First you have to apply a few drops of the thermal material remover to the CPU. And now we wait. Okay, now what you want to do is wipe that stuff off. Now once again, just get some Arctic Clean Thermal Surface Purifier on your coffee filter and then clean the CPU. And now comes the hard part, putting on the thermal paste.
Wow!
Okay, that is all for this video. We hope you enjoyed. If you learned something, leave a like, and if you didn't, still leave a like, because why not? Anyways, see you all in the next one.